is a wonderful footing to be on. Thank you so much for coming tonight. What a wise choice you've made, and I think you're going to enjoy this company very much. I've had the great privilege of spending a day and a half now, and it's a good point to announce this, that they thought they were leaving tomorrow, but they can't because I'll be distraught. And so we have guest rooms, so you have lives, I remember that. So here I am tonight, and I'm going to begin by explaining what we're doing here. We have an initiative at the Sandy American West, a humor initiative made possible by Bill and Jane Reynolds, and we will begin by... This series was launched for various reasons, and for good reasons. It began a couple years ago with me giving a talk in my role as University of Colorado Fool. And so the Fools concept has been in play here for a spell, and that led us to become exhilarated with that idea and to call this the Fools for a Day series. We don't really tell our guests that when we but I'm happy to say, if I wouldn't violate your comments on this, that Cora, when she saw the ad, I guess a friend showed her the ad, it said Fools for a Day next to her face, she said, this is great, this is really relaxing. And that's where we want it. So the Humor Initiative began with Fool. It had Bob Mankoff. We'll have a ceremony at the end where these people will be very honored and recognized, and will, for reasons that I can't tell you now, will take pictures of you to take home with them. They're a sentimental pair, really. So if you have to leave at the end, do so, but please stay if you don't have to be out the door for just 3 or 4 minutes at the end for the ceremony, which is very moving and very beautiful. So I think probably it would be surprising to me if anyone in the room doesn't know the kinds of things I'm about to say for the next minute or two. Ian Frazier is a staff writer at The New Yorker. He has contributed to the magazine since 1974. He is the author of 11 books, and they have quite a range of titles: Dating Your Mom, that's an interesting one, and On the Res, and The Fish's Eye, and the one that I am particularly grateful for, The Great Plains. Great Plains, not The Great Plains, Great Plains, because I was assigned, of all things, by the British Times Literary Supplement to review that. So that was my chance to get to know his work, and then it was my chance a couple years later to meet him at a conference, and I can't believe this is true because it seems so unlike me, but I said, oh, hi, Mr. Frazier, I reviewed your book, and I gave it a good review, and the British people are all reading it now. I don't know if I said that, but it was a wonderful way to get acquainted, and it's been a great privilege to know him over these last few years. Well, for this, and of course he's a frequent contributor to Shouts and Murmurs, the humor section of The New Yorker. But most to the point this evening, Ian Frazier is the father of Cora Frazier. The Sandy American West has, well, not consistent and unbroken brilliance, but it certainly does have episodes of brilliance. And we, it turns out, are the first organization to invite the two of them to appear together in the program. To say a little about Cora Frazier. From what I have come to understand, Cora hit the planet with a pre-existing condition of wit and unexpected perspective. From a very young age, she was pitching in to answer questions like, what question would you like to ask Dracula if you could? As if that were a question that every 4 or 5-year-old was ready to take on. And she did take it on. You might get to hear the answer in a bit. Cora spent a number of her formative years in Missoula, Montana, where she showed a dazzling talent for transforming a sweater with wooden buttons into a solution to and remedy for the bullying that initially afflicted her as a new arrival in town. That gets you curious, doesn't it? Okay. That's all I'm going to say now about that. But we'll come back to that. Over the years, her commentary on her father has also been characterized by insight and wit. As she said of her father during their Missoula years, Daddy has been fishing very heavily. Which continues, I think, on that. By the time she went to Harvard, the idea that she would become a lawyer had somehow entered the picture. But when she became a member of the Harvard Lampoon, a new sense of vocation came into play with the recognition that she could write humor and then she could fully unleash her own voice. One early episode of Unleashing was the co-authoring of a parody of the famous Twilight books. Cora's worked with a co-author on that, and the wondrous title of their product was Nightlight. And in that book, she recognizes that book as a kind of affectionate parody, less like bitter and sharp mockery of a popular work, and something more like performing a ballet or perhaps a modern dance with the handsome and ominous figures of the Pacific Northwest forest. Cora started writing for the Shouts and Murmurs humor section of the New Yorker in 2012. Her pieces there include Please See Attached, a particularly prescient one, other recent campaign promises to Russia, Breaking Up with Your Parents, and Frontier Squad Rules, which we will get to hear a little bit more of. So now I would like to point out to Kurt that the light is not great here, and that we might need to have a little bit of supplement from a flashlight up here for others. And then I would like to now just do something these folks have never had happen to them. I think it's so fun. So you'll see there's 9 people, I think, in the front row, starting on the side. They're starting in the middle there. And then wave to the Fraziers, if you wouldn't mind.
9 people? Okay.
There's 9 of them there. Yeah, and they are in some kind of sense your kin. Do you want to look at them again?
Aunt Rose.
Okay, not to take up too much more time with this. We have a wonderful retirement community in our area that is named Frazier Meadows. And these folks are called Frazier Meadows. And now, and
It's only a matter of about 15 minutes.
they spell it wrong. Is what
Is it that far?
they spell it wrong. Yeah. So your microphones in a moment, we'll start deploying those, but not yet. What we're going to do is alternate between, we're going to start with both of them reading a piece to you so you can get immersed immediately in the humor. Then we will chat for a while, and we will then return to having them read a couple of their humor pieces as well. So we will begin with the person probably with better eyesight, since it's getting dark up here. Sandy, no. No, we won't do that. So we'll have Cora begin by reading one of her Shouts and Murmurs essays for us, and then we'll move to Sandy, and then we'll get to chatting, and we have other surprise. We have one other big surprise coming. That was one surprise.
Thank you, Patty. I think I had the advantage in that intro. There was a lot about me in that intro, so thank you. And thank you for having us, too. And thank you to Frazier Meadows. We were worried we wouldn't get a chance to catch up with family this trip, but here you are, so that's great. This piece is called Sting is Me, and it begins with a quote from the New York Times. In one of the boldest gambles in many a theater season, Sting will begin acting in the Broadway musical The Last Ship, in hopes that his devoted fans will help turn around the show's previously low ticket sales. Sting is replacing the actor Jimmy Nail. The New York Times. Attention, patrons. For the remainder of the performances of Cora's life, the role of Cora will be played by Sting. Audiences will delight in seeing the international music superstar Sting as Cora, unsure about how undressed to get at the doctor's office and overestimating by several garments. Producers fully expect Sting, one of the most talented living humans, to give the production new verve. When our story opens, Sting is wearing a sample bridesmaid's dress, looking in a store mirror and trying to picture the dress in a different size, color, and style. Theatergoers will witness a flashback scene in which Sting, who was also cast as the younger Cora, tells her 4-year-old cousin at a sleepover that her doll got bit by a rat and had to wear a full body cast. As in previous performances, Sting's Cora will think extensively and seek advice from friends, therapists, and gym employees about the meaning of an email from LinkedIn informing her that her ex-boyfriend wants to connect. The rest of the cast remains the same, including the man in the truck who calls out to Sting as she is running in her oversized shorts, prompting Sting to yell, "Come on, dude, didn't you see the catcalling video?" In upcoming performances of Cora's life, Sting makes the significant choice to wear her hair 2 inches shorter and slightly less layered. Spoiler alert, at some point in the show, Sting lies on her bed in a fetal position and starts crying within the first 10 seconds of the trailer for The Notebook. Watch Sting as she tells a man on a first date, unprompted, that she would convert to Judaism. The character Sting is portraying doesn't look perfect in the morning. This we learn in Act 2. Plus, Sting's stomach makes noises in the morning because she is a human being. And Sting. Critics privy to preview performances say that Sting redefines the method and bravery itself in the scene in which Cora is in the car. "I love you," Sting says, full-eyed, to her mother as she, Sting, is wheeled away in a hospital gown and Converse for an ultrasound. Producers are confident that with Sting as Cora, at this moment in the production, audiences will understand their common humanity, and those who know one another will, without making eye contact or saying a word, begin to hold hands. Of past performances, audiences have remarked that the title character could check her phone far fewer times in the course of the production, with no effect whatsoever on the plot. They have sided with Cora's mother when she said that Cora would be a very poor dog owner. They have described the extended lying in bed and riding the subway for no reason scenes as boring and inexplicable. But with Sting in the title role, producers are confident that Cora's commentary at a party about mortality and Fast and Furious 7 will seem insightful and newsworthy, instead of loud, inopportune, and logically flawed. When Sting, as Cora, attends a family holiday cookie-making event and is the only single person there, it is not odd or deserving of psychological scrutiny and pity. Producers are sure that Cora's desire to dance and yell lyrics on stage at a concert will seem to audiences fitting for her talents, and that her attempts to enter clubs by saying to the bouncer, "Let me get your name," will seem perfectly sensible given the level of celebrity of the actor playing her. Critics have said that this casting change should have been made long ago. Producers don't disagree. The original person playing Cora is happy for this replacement to be more or less permanent.
I'm going to read a piece. It's not. I'm not going to read the whole piece. I'm just going to read the beginning of it. But it's a piece that I wrote for Outside Magazine. I write for them a fair amount. And the title of the piece is "Bad Advice." Some years ago, on a camping trip to the pine woods of northern Michigan, My friend Don brought along a copy of an outdoor cookbook that appeared on the bestseller list at the time. This book contained many ingenious and easy-sounding recipes. One that Don especially wanted to try was called Breakfast in a Paper Bag. According to this recipe, you could take a small paper lunch sack, put strips of bacon in the bottom, break an egg into the sack on top of the bacon, fold down the top of the sack, push a stick through the fold, hold the sack over the coals, and cook the bacon and egg in the sack in about 10 minutes. I watched as Don followed the directions exactly. Both he and I remarked that we would naturally have thought the sack would burn. The recipe, however, declared grease will cook the bottom of the bag. Grease will coat the bottom of the bag as it cooks. Somehow we both took this to mean that the grease, counterintuitively, actually made the bag less likely to burn. Marveling at the who would have guessed magic of it, we picked a good spot in the hot coals of our campfire, and Don held the sack above them. We watched. In a second and a half, the bag burst into leaping flames. Don was yelling for help, waving the bag around, trying to extinguish it, scattering egg yolk and smoldering strips of bacon and flaming paper into the combustible pines, while people at adjoining campfires stared in horror and wondered what they should do. The wild figures that the burning breakfast described in midair as Don waved the stick, the look of outraged, imbecile shock reflected on our faces. Those are images that stay with me. I replay the incident often in my mind. It is like a parable. Because a book told us to, we attempted to use greased paper as a frying pan on an open fire. For all I know, the trick is possible if you do it just so. We never repeated the experiment. But to me, the incident illustrates a larger truth about our species when it ventures out of doors. We go forth in abundant ignorance, near blind with fantasy, witlessly trusting words on a page, or a tip a guy we'd never met before gave us at a sporting goods counter in a giant discount store. About half the time, the faith that leads us into the outdoors is based on advice that is half-baked, made up, hypothetical, uninformed, spurious, or deliberately, heedlessly bad.
So, can we start off with your thoughts as you sit here and about your father here, and the bio was shorter because I thought a lot of people in the room probably had it in their heads already. So, but as you watch your father now, what's in your mind?
He's so grown up. He's really blossoming, and he's writing, and it's so cool. I remember when he was only 40, and I was 1. I had thought when I started to write humor that maybe we would do something like this one day, and I thought that I would want to say, oh, I'm so proud of him.
Great.
Well, as Cora has told me, our parents are our future.
Oh, is that so weighted with meaning that we're going to go into maybe, I don't know, just different terrain. When Bob Mankoff was here to start our series, he was pretty insistent that I was too cheerful in my thoughts about the value of humor. And I thought of humor as crucial to alliance building, towards disarmament. And I'm sorry to say that Bob Mankoff called me Pollyanna probably 9 times during his visit here, and said that in fact, humor has extraordinary power to injure and to wound, to separate insiders from outsiders, to remind outsiders just how much they're outside. So could you stand up for me in this debate with Bob Mankoff if you'd like, or if you would like to just say, oh, that Bob Mankoff cartoon editor at the New Yorker, that he knows what he's talking about. And I am kind of dippy in my hopefulness. You could say that too.
I don't know. Obviously, I mean, humor can do all kinds of things, but I think when we were on the radio show this morning, Cora talked about a kind of audience response that a lot of humorists now are getting and comedians are getting, which comedy writers call clapter, where you say something so in line with the political opinions of your audience that they applaud rather than laugh. And I think what humor offers, I mean, obviously if you do that, and people who do that know that it's too easy. You know, they know that that's an easy way to get like, yeah, everybody's happy and things are going good. But the joke maybe wasn't all that funny, it was just that they liked the politics behind it. And I think that if you set yourself a standard of saying, I'm not going to settle for that, I'm going to try to do something that would make people laugh, whatever their political opinion, you know, one would hope. And so that, I think, is a great thing to aspire to. And it's also, I mean, how many things do you have in your culture that you can just aspire to, and it's out there, and it's, you know, it doesn't matter what, you know, red state or blue state, or, you know, it's beyond anybody's, you know, political leaning or any other kind of leaning, that you're trying for something that's almost like a classical ideal. So I think it's definitely, you're definitely right.
They're not laughing. They're all dead serious. They're really, really serious at that. Well, that's a nice thing. Cora, do you want to say anything about that? Or, I mean, do you think in this legendarily divided nation that there's really any domain for all of us finding something funny? Or a good share of us? I'm not even sure that I would need, I'm sad to say this, some people actually do not have senses of humor. So if we wait for them, we'll think, oh, we're not getting that, but we'll just pray for them is what we'll do.
Or laugh.
Or laugh at them. But pray and then laugh and then pray again. So where are we? Is from your, there is a difference in age, and so where's the generational perspective on this? Do you see prospects for the majority, the significant majority, coming together and finding the same thing funny?
Yeah, I hope so. I think what's difficult is that people aren't necessarily consuming the same media. So even if there's something in one outlet that's really great, it might not be reaching a lot of people. And that people tend to, you know, it's sort of self-fulfilling. You know, you watch or read the media that you agree with, and you know that can kind of perpetuate that. So, you know, I don't know that like network TV kind of exists in the same way, you know, that everyone sits down with the nightly news, and, you know, the late shows still exist, but I think that, you know, we were talking about Bob Hope and
Yeah, I went to, when I, you know, 35, 40 years ago, I saw Bob Hope do a routine in New York City, and I admired Bob Hope enormously. I'm from Cleveland, he was from Cleveland. And I made a list of the things that he made jokes about. And it was Dean Martin's drinking, the Tidy Bowl Man, Jimmy Carter's teeth. Jimmy Carter was president at the time. Nadia Coleman-Meach. And these were all things that basically everybody was going to know about. And you have fewer things where you can count on everybody knowing about it, just because we all are watching, kind of, as Cora said, consuming different media. So it's hard to find something that, hey, we all share this, you know. And if you see like a Bob Hope USO routine from, you know, even Vietnam era, there's still stuff that everybody shares. And I think that as that becomes less the case, that we share fewer things, fewer references, that comedy will get more difficult.
I'm curious proposition there, the salvation might be, before you guys come on, the first 10 minutes are a professor giving people information and saying, Tidy Bowl Cleaner was, and just sort of offering the background. So 10-minute PowerPoint from the professor, and then you're on, and people are, oh, Tidy Bowl Cleaner, yeah, we get it. So,
or go out and do a routine. Nobody has any idea what you're you're talking about, and then spend the next 20 minutes explaining the joke. Like almost person to person, like, did you get it? Okay, here, let me, what was your, and so you do find yourself explaining jokes more.
Yes, well, here's a phrase we have used for maybe decades now, that we think of humor as the WD-40 of social friction and tension. And that has brought some people into the need, speaking of information, to make sure that we know that that's a really complicated chemical, WD-40, and so we've had some lectures on whether we really mean WD-40 or if we mean, I don't know what, Vaseline, I don't know what word, I don't mean that. I don't mean that, but so if we just go, returning to a very serious subject of humor, would you encourage us to keep that phrasing, that we should continue to refer to humor as the WD-40, to take that jammed up set of gears and loosen it up, to make things move again?
Yeah, I would say we should say that just constantly. And then maybe they'll accept it. Well, I mean, again, yeah, I think it's certainly a way of having people share something. So, yes, I think it's an accurate phrase, and I think worth repeating constantly.
I think laughter is such a human thing, and it's involuntary and guttural, and so to kind of connect with someone, maybe who you don't know, or in that way, I think is a great thing, and kind of rare, and yeah.
And, since at some point in the evening, I must give us a little bit of a reminder, because the news cycle is short, so I'm just going to do a quick thing on the Bundys. In January of 2016, January 2nd, the Bundy brothers led a group of occupiers to Harney County, and they took over the National Wildlife Refuge there. So that will figure in some later items that come up. So just a reminder of what we're talking about with the Bundys. Professorial. I have a PowerPoint on the Bundys that I'm going to show. No, I don't, but I was in, I guess, was it a week ago? Yesterday. I gave a talk in Harney County to a group that covered the whole political spectrum of people there who had responded in various ways, and they laughed at the same time. There was no pattern by which some people were glowering, so I think I got to really test that. As to what was left behind, maybe they got over that, I don't know. But it was a wonderful thing to see that was totally working. So just a quick set of reflections. Do you see I was told there was a poor man who was, I won't name him, but a man maybe 30 years ago at some talk I was giving to a bunch of scientists said to me afterwards, you know that you undermine your serious point, that people cannot take you and your content seriously when you use the humor. So that person said that, and I was quite young then. I was younger than 40, I think, at that time. And so I thought, uh-oh, that's going to be trouble. I've chosen to assume now that humor gives serious messages more force and aim, but certainly humor can be a distraction and a trivializer. So where are you on that? If you wanted to say something of consequence to the American people, is that a time to use humor freely or to hold it back?
Well, people don't, I mean, if you want to go into, public life and do serious things, and you have a reputation as a humorous person, you sort of have to cut back on it. And you take an example of Al Franken, who's a senator now. He's a really funny guy, but he's not now also doing stand-up.
Right.
I mean, you kind of have to decide one way or the other. A lot of times, humorists will be really funny, and then they'll decide they want to be serious. Woody Allen, a hilarious guy, but wants to be taken seriously as a filmmaker. So then you go kind of in another direction. Humor has just bled into everything now. There's intentional humor, and then there's unintentional humor. That's just all over the place, and in the news constantly. It's like the news is just unintentionally funny all the time. I use as an example President Putin, who seems to get a huge kick out of being a James Bond villain, you know, going around shirtless and it's like something out of, you know, Goldfinger or something, and knows, I think, that he's being funny, and yet is a brutal dictator. So you now have humor as a language. It's the language of advertising. When I was young, you would never be ironic in an ad. You wanted people simply to say, this is a great product. Now, many ads are so funny and ironic and strange that you're not even sure what they're advertising. Yeah, so it's, I mean, it has kind of extended out into the culture and in all aspects of it. The places where I find it, where I don't want it, there are two places. One, ballets. Funny ballets. Never go to a funny ballet. And the other is flight attendant announcements on airplanes. I don't want you to joke about anything, okay? So there are places where it's starting to go where it just doesn't belong.
Actually, I have a question that you can answer or reject. Other questions are required. But I was going to ask about 2007, this is really going off in the unintentional humor, 2017's peculiar circumstances, if you would want to distinguish between the areas in our tough and divided times now, the areas in which there is the most urgent need for the application of humor, what topics, what places are just crying for humor to come to the aid, or which areas to stay out of, which areas are just going to be made worse and more divisive and more contentious with humor. So you can say, well, that's not a very good question, or that's too tense, or it's too, it's going to take us into territory that the whole point will be that we shouldn't have gone there. So.
Well, I think right now in 2017, it's really important to say what's true and what isn't. And oftentimes comedy, you know, isn't true. You know, is parodic or is exaggerated. So I think it's, you know, I know a lot of comedy writers who struggle with kind of how outlandish the news has become, and they feel like they can't necessarily make jokes about it, and they don't really like it. You know, they feel kind of trapped. You know, like they can't be funnier than the news. Yeah, what do you say? So I think often it's a moment to just say what is actually true.
I find that, you know, well, like years ago, not that many years ago, when there were Sarah Palin jokes just thick on the street, I mean, you could just turn around without bumping into them, that it was more a sign of virtue not to do that kind of joke, you know, or not virtue, but just like trying to do something good. And there are obvious things now you can make jokes about, or people you can make jokes about. And I try to not do it, because it's just like, there's plenty of people doing that. You don't need to do that. And again, something that doesn't have that kind of content, that doesn't have, I mean, you know, the news lays out something that it's like, as Cora said, I mean, how can you improve on it? And sometimes the comedians don't really improve on it, they just repeat it, you know? And that seems lazy to me. It seems like, oh, do something from out of nowhere that nobody has, hey, why is that guy making a joke about that? And then they start to laugh at it, and I feel like that's a more honorable thing to do, sort of.
Yeah. I want to shift to the strategies, techniques inside world of being humor writers, and a bigger framework of how do you choose your subjects and approaches, or maybe if your subjects choose you, for all I know. So could you both reflect on the degree to which you, when you were going to write a piece for the New Yorker or for any publication, is it instinct and inspiration and acts of grace where the universe is just kind to you and it is placed before you as you walk down a street or walk into a store, or is it really much more about you've figured it out, you've done it enough, so you know you can be conscious, intentional, calculating, because you really, your old hands, and it would be like saying to a car mechanic, is it grace or is it knowledge, or what is it there, that you just have it, you know how the engine works, and so you think, okay, it's time, let's make another one of these products. Oh, sorry. That was a really good technique of putting my watch where I could keep my eye on it, which so it didn't work out. So why don't you start on that one of the degree to which it's grace or instinct or calculation?
I think it's a kind of difficult calculation between labor and joy, or I mean, I guess you could say grace and works if you want to use that framework. But because if you don't have that initial magic and rush of the idea, and which is laughter, I mean, that you have to have that to have a humor piece. But at the same time, can be kind of hard to sustain, and so you have to have the labor to judge that moment of joy, which is like sort of a strange thing to continually do. And then you have to kind of keep looking at the piece, and oftentimes it means you just have to look at something again and again, and you hope that you can sort of muster that same grace again, which can sometimes be difficult, but it also does require this labor and this knowledge of language and how to manipulate language. So I think it was kind of a difficult thing for me to learn because, when I was in high school, you would sort of memorize things and you do the homework, and so I think I kind of took that approach to comedy writing, and you have to have that part of it, but there is this kind of unexplained aspect too. So I think it's kind of a difficult acrobatic quality.
For me, a humor idea is like a toy that you just can't stop playing with, like when you get something when you were little that was, something you just could play with it all day because it was so cool. And so an idea will occur to me, and I just will start thinking about it. I really like that idea. And recently I just started thinking about mummies. Because we're hearing all the time about zombies. But what happened to mummies? They're still out there, right? And they used to be really scary. And then I started thinking about mummies operating giant construction cranes. And
As one does. As one does.
As one does. Because mummies cranes, I mean, it's not such a distant link. How did they build the pyramids? Those cranes are still out there somewhere. And I'm going to find it. But it's just like you'll have an idea that's a toy, and you just keep, and what Cora's saying is, and then you have to kind of make it work as a piece of writing, and you'll end up reading it so many times, like, why did I ever think this was funny? But it's a combination, and it's just like playing, it's fun.
And yet, I want to go back just for a moment to is it going to work the next time thing that you were speaking of. I used to say all the time that writing for me when I was younger was like exactly a reenactment of the shoemaker and the elves, where the shoemaker agrees to make some shoes, and then it's overwhelming, and there's too many of them, and it's just too hard, and so the shoemaker falls asleep, and the dear little elves come dancing out, and then he wakes up, and all the shoes are there. And when I succeeded in writing something, I thought, I don't know where that came from. It was really great. Thank God for those elves. But at a certain point, they're going to get pissed off. They're going to say, we have saved you over and over and over again, and we are just not showing up. You just get us in this pickle, and then we work and save you, and then you get us there again. So that sense that at some point the elves might say, no, good luck. We're not coming in there. Do you have that sense sometimes that the gift that has been within your reach might not be there? I mean, it might just be that you would write a normal, nonfiction, clear communication.
I saw Richard Pryor, who's one of the funniest people America ever produced, go on the Tonight Show once. And he comes in and sits next to Johnny Carson, and Carson says something to him, and Richard Pryor says, I got nothing. He said, I got nothing. I don't have anything to say. And of course he then continued, but that he was honest about that, which does happen. The elves don't show up.
Dang bells. Yeah.
Yeah, I think a big change for me when I was writing comedy was to have the confidence to kind of throw out jokes, because I think when I started and I would write a joke, oh my God, like I'm never going to write another joke, so I have to keep this joke. But as I would work on pieces more, I would just, okay, well, I'll have the confidence that, you know, maybe a better one will come along if you know, this could be better.
Could you just tell us, because it was such a great little story about William Shawn, the famous editor of The New Yorker, how he would let you know that you had written, we'll go with a humor piece, but that you had written a piece that was not going to make it? How would Shawn give you that information?
Well, the thing, William Shawn was a great editor of The New Yorker who started editing the magazine in like 51, the year I was born. And I started at the magazine in 74. And I would write pieces, you know, and I usually short pieces for Talk of the Town and humor pieces. And I would submit them to Mr. Shawn. And one of two things would happen. I would either hear nothing ever again. It would totally disappear. He wouldn't call back and say, well, I'll do the first paragraph differently or something like that. It would just disappear. Or I would come in the next day and it would be in the proofs, you know. He would have set it up and it would be accepted and there it would be. And it was a real binary system, you know. It was either 100% it worked or 100% you heard nothing. And it was weird because you weren't getting like sentence by sentence feedback in any way. But you were getting a general picture of your writing and what he felt was your authentic self and a piece that worked, and something where he didn't feel that. And you would then later think about those pieces and think, why wasn't that one good and this one was? But I mean, I worked for him for, you know, 8 years, just basically doing that. And I did get an idea of what my writing was. Without almost any, you know, sentence by sentence or paragraph by paragraph editing.
This is every professor who has heard this wants to figure out if it would work for us.
I think it's a very, I don't know, very zen way of doing it. It requires a huge amount of patience and forbearance, or, you know, not going insane on the writer's part, because you just don't know. You're just in it, and it's also something that's very incremental over a long period of time.
So I'm shifting now to some more family focused or kinship focused. That just brings the Fraser Meadows to mind again. But on generational assumptions about what's funny and what's not. And I think when we first spoke of this, I said to Cora, you're a lot younger than most New Yorker readers, and yet you're aiming for them, and not exclusively to them, but is that tough to be thinking that you're aiming at an audience that might have a very different, that would be thinking about, sentimentally about Bob Hope, and what's going to happen to you? So how do you navigate that, reaching across generational lines to appeal to people who really are coming out of quite a different cohort and generational perspective?
Well, I started out writing pieces for my parents. When I was a little kid, like as a gift or as a fun thing to do. We both show everything to my mom. So she's our main audience, I would say, and I'm close to her. So I have that, you know, I mean, my mom reads The New Yorker, so I have that reader in mind. I think they are trying to reach a younger audience and have succeeded in doing that to some degree. And most of my friends subscribe. Yeah.
Cool. Sticking with the generational thing, but I guess I would like to have you tell the audience, because I left it hanging. What did she think as a very young person about what one might ask Dracula?
Well, when we lived in Missoula, we were having a dinner party, and one of the guys there, writer Chris Offutt, who's an interesting, funny writer, and was teaching at Missoula at the time, just was kind of posing questions, and he said, if you could ask Dracula one question, what would you ask him? And we were sort of speculating about that. And Cora said, if I could ask Dracula one question, I would ask him, who is his doctor? And the whole table kind of went, what? Yeah, okay. Yeah, I didn't want to ask Dracula that. But it was also a moment of pride and excitement and fun for me, because when I heard that, I said, she could do this.
And it's a generational, that amused you when you said it, and it clearly got to the elders there too. So that's the training program, really. So I'd like to move this to the ways in which the Harvard Lampoon and the generational succession of the Harvard Lampoon plays into this kinship here. So if you, Sandy, if you could tell us about actions you took as a young person when you could not see the future that in fact had a very happy impact on that future.
Yeah, I was at Harvard in the early 70s, and the Harvard Lampoon, which was founded in 1876, it was all male, obviously, forever, up until then. And for some reason in like 72, they opened the candidacy to women. And we had a couple candidates who were really good, but then when the election came, they were voted out. Nobody even really wanted to vote on them, but they were not admitted. And I went back to my room and I thought, boy, that was really strange, because one of the candidates was so good. She was much better than any of the guys. And so I called people and we reconvened at the Lampoon and we talked about it again. And there were a number of people that agreed with me. And I said, we should elect these women. And after a very contentious discussion in which some of the guys quit and never came back, we did elect these two women. And one of them, Patty Marks, is a really funny writer, is in the New Yorker often, and has written movies and writes for Steve Martin and does all kinds of things. But when you do something and you're kind of thinking of the future, and I was like a kind of idealistic hippie person, I'm thinking, this is the right thing to do and we got to do it. But you don't think, and it never occurred to me that the woman whose opportunity I was opening up, among those women would be my daughter. And so it gives me, it was really a pleasant and great thing. And my mother, who died before Cora was born, came to the Lampoon at my graduation, and had never been. We're from Ohio, and she'd never been there, and she looked at it, she was so dazzled with it. And she took pictures of all the inside. And so we had pictures of the inside of the building, and there's a great high ceiling. And at one point, when Cora was a member,
can I just say that we're going to do a little bit of a historical exercise here. He will tell the story, and then the person who was actually there will tell the story about how this object moved through space.
Okay.
Okay.
Cora is dancing on the table and has had a bit to drink, and kicks off her shoes, and one of them goes up, and I thought it lodged in the antlers up there, but it lodged up there in that great high beamed room. And I still have the picture that my mother took. And to say to her, in whatever afterlife I would say this, your granddaughter's shoe ended up in that picture way up high.
So when that story first came up, you remarked that your father had not been there on the occasion of you dancing on the table, and I don't totally know how you could kick a shoe and that's a high ceiling. So
Yeah.
could you give an eyewitness report?
Or a demonstration.
Or a demonstration.
I guess it's the high ceiling. It's totally true, everything you said.
Thank you.
Well, I don't really know. We were dancing. I was wearing a flat, and I kicked it, and it kind of flipped over on itself, and it got lodged in one of the beams. And so my friends and I tried to throw things at it to get it, because it was really hard to try to dislodge it. So just like soda bottles and anything we could think of, get a pole and climb, and the shoe remains there. The flat remains up at that beam.
Then you walked home with one shoe.
Yeah. Just kind of accepted it. Walked home.
So that story. Well, I want to take a couple of things that I brought up there. But first, to say that Bob Mankoff was very clear in saying to us, we should value the tradition of the West in humor, and the fact that you did engage in a social psychology experiment of living in Missoula for a number of years and experimenting with humor there, and then also than being very familiar with the New York metropolitan area version of humor. So if we could get to reflections, a little bit of reflections on the Missoula scene and humor as you experienced it there. I mentioned a sweater and a wise and innovative use of a sweater. And so could this is another nice moment. If you find some historical inaccuracies, you should be right in there. But okay, so tell us about that.
Cora had gone to a private preschool in Park Slope and in Brooklyn. And then we moved to Missoula, and she went to a public school. On the first day, she got beat up on the playground. And so she...
No one laughed.
And so she came home and we said, well, this can't really be true, and go back and whatever. We didn't do anything. But then it kept happening. And so we went to her teacher and we said, Cora's having these problems on the playground and the kids are beating her up. And the teacher said, it was a Montana woman, said, well, what does Cora do when she's beaten up? And we said, well, she has a sweater with great big wooden buttons on it, and she whacks them with the sweater. And the teacher said, all right, that's good, and that was the solution, the school solution. Whack them with the sweater, and we're not going to worry about the bullying issues. That was Montana versus, Park Slope, where we would have just talked it out endlessly. We talked about all the little boys and why were they being so hostile. We didn't do that. She just attacked with the sweater.
Yeah, I didn't reveal this fact to my parents for a while because I thought they wouldn't approve. I wasn't, not supposed to hit people. But I kept asking for new sweaters. And my mom was really confused. Well, why do the buttons keep breaking on the sweater? Like, what's going on there? And I said, I just need a new one. And I finally confessed that was a weapon.
So I want to get us a couple more readings before we conclude this part of our gathering. The making fun of the Western myth is a precarious enterprise in some ways, although we recently had a gathering here in Boulder where we watched Blazing Saddles, and we're really happy, really enchanted, and we can see that people who don't watch it carefully would say, oh, that's making fun of the main character, the black man, but in fact the black man is making the others, white folks, look so. We just thought this is really worth seeing, and we've gone mad in trying to find Mel Brooks and thanking him, but we can't reach it because 91 and reclusive, I guess, but peppy. So we...
Well, when he received the Presidential Medal of Freedom, he tried to pull Obama's pants down. Google that if you want to see something wild. He goes up and says, thank you, and he goes like that, pretends
The Secret Service.
Nobody did anything, and he just kind of laughs, and he goes, man, Mel Brooks is really wild.
But I think when I hadn't seen it in years, and I thought, oh, I'm probably not going to enjoy this because this will be mocking of serious issues and so on. But I really did enjoy it and was actually a little bit crazed with the pleasure of that. So, but it can make people prickly to have that happen to them, to be so entranced with the myth that to have it mocked. So I think we were going to shift now to one more set of readings, and we will have Cora read from the Frontier Squad's Goals.
Yeah, okay. This piece also begins with a quote. What are squad goals? People you want in your squad, or an idea your squad might come to embody, or simply a tag you affix to a picture of you and your pals looking glamorous. And that's from Slate. Frontier squad goals. Take lots of pictures, so we will never forget the home we are leaving forever to go west by covered wagon. Coordinate our outfits, so we will be recognizable in a large crowd of people fleeing severe drought. Limit our social media posts to good, relevant messages, such as ones reassuring relatives that we have outrun the feral hogs. Tell loved ones how much they mean to us before we depart for a vague location that we have never seen and have no direct evidence exists. Master the art of layering, because we have no idea what kind of weather we will encounter. Carry matching totes with all the snake bite antidote we can gather. Avoid feeling guilty for saying no to future social plans that would be difficult to attend because we will be living in a new place for which we have no map. Try to spend less time each day sitting on bumpy, splinter-filled wagon seats. Eat more unprocessed, clean food with no mold, no obvious discoloration, and no parasites. Spend more time outside looking for bearless caves to take shelter in. Limit screen use before bed so we can start winding down even as we lie unprotected in an open field trying to determine the distance of howling coyotes. Reuse our bags because the other burlap sacks are full of maggot holes. Appreciate the simple pleasures, like the rippling fur on the bodies of 5 brown bears running toward the fort where we had planned to stop for provisions. Fill our plates with a variety of colorful bean and non-bean foods. Treat ourselves by rubbing sheep's fur on our open sores. Make time to connect with the older generations so that they can tell us everything they remember about the February of scarlet fever. Maintain healthy boundaries in personal relationships and around our campsite with delineating lines of prairie dog carcasses. Avoid wolves. Hug one another frequently for the endorphin boost and because we could be separated indefinitely at any moment. Practice good sleep hygiene by going to bed and waking up at the same time each day, lying in a single tent while members of our party make love next to us. Meditate regularly, but not in the vicinity of snakes. Practice being grateful that cold weather means fewer disease-carrying insects. Cut out of our lives people who don't make us happy, like the otter pelt trader who communicates with us only by gesturing with his weapon. Learn a coordinated square dance to distract us from reports of cannibalism among a nearby party. Spend more time with family by holding hands with blood relations, only letting go in cases of hygienic necessity. Declutter by leaving behind the last sacks of flour that Lolly used to carry. Let go of past regrets and the half of a pointer finger that was blackened and deadened by frostbite. Limit our calorie intake, because we must make the rations last for another 3 to 5 weeks, depending on whether we are 1,000 or 1,500 miles from Salt Lake City. Burn smarter fuels, and never look directly into the fire so as not to raise the ghost of dysentery Dan. Increase mindfulness and practice being fully present, except when undergoing simple tool dentistry. Consume fewer animal products, including uncooked crow. Find a glass window for the mud dwelling we have erected on federal land. Cook at home more, because the stove will be on anyway, for warmth. Focus on what's really important, such as having enough cured meats to last through a multi-week siege. Take over a government building by armed force. Try to really look at one another and be in the moment, because to leave this room would be to acknowledge the United States of America's legitimacy as a sovereign entity. Initiate a treasonous paramilitary standoff. Drown out the noise, the 24-hour news cycle, the reporters outside, the helicopters overhead, the employees who want to get back to their jobs protecting bird life, and the state troopers who want to arrest us for breaking multiple laws. Just breathe. start growing out our hair for our squad Scooby-Doo costume now.
This one, I just want to take a moment, because of the kinship issue here, to talk for a moment about this piece and its origins, if that's okay, just because the exchange on the question of authorship. This is a piece that appears as written by Sandy Frazier, where it appeared, and yet Cora's words and voice and remarks appear somewhere in these pieces. So in a sense, it is kind of co-authored, right? Because this comes out of your childhood where you were saying things and he was writing them down.
And a brother also.
And a brother, yeah, okay. So the brother, so it's actually the two children and you who are the authors of this, because they said the clever things that you, or the things that you wrote down. And it's been a very successful piece. And what was it that you said about the question of royalties and revenue?
Oh, yeah. So when I started to understand, that this is something that you could make money at, I said to my dad, because the piece he was going to read had several things that I had done, so I said to my dad, I should get some of the proceeds of that. And he said, how about I raised you until you were 18 years old and fed you and clothed you and gave you shelter? And I said, yeah, that's probably fair. That's a good trade.
Thanks.
This was a piece that I did when my kids were little, and I noted things that they said, and I noted things that I said to the kids. And if you've ever had the experience, you know that you say things to your kids and then you stop and you realize, what did I just say? Because it's something you've never said before, and that you'll never say again, in many cases. And when I was doing this, I was writing a book about my family, and many of my ancestors were ministers, so I was reading a lot of religious texts, and I read the Bible. And I was reading the book of Deuteronomy, which has all the dietary laws. And so I kind of got the notion of combining, what I had said and what I had heard my kids say, and this biblical voice. And the piece is called Laws Concerning Food and Drink, Household Principles, Lamentations of the Father. Of the beasts of the field, and of the fishes of the sea, and of all foods that are acceptable in my sight, you may eat, but not in the living room. Of the hoofed animals, broiled or ground into burgers, you may eat, but not in the living room. Of the cloven hoof animals, plain or with cheese, you may eat, but not in the living room. Of the cereal grains of the corn, and of the wheat, and of the oats, and of all the cereals that are of bright color and unknown provenance, you may eat, but not in the living room. Of the quiescently frozen dessert, and of all frozen after-meal treats, you may eat, but absolutely not in the living room. Of the juices and other beverages, yes, even of those in sippy cups, you may drink, but not in the living room, neither may you carry such therein. Indeed, when you reach the place where the living room carpet begins, of any food or beverage there you may not eat, neither may you drink. But if you are sick and are lying down and watching something, then may you eat in the living room. Laws when at table. And if you are seated in your high chair or in a chair such as a greater person might use, keep your legs and feet below you as they were. Neither raise up your knees nor place your feet upon the table, for that is an abomination to me. Yes, even when you have an interesting bandage to show. Your feet upon the table are an abomination and worthy of rebuke. Drink your milk as it is given you, neither use on it any utensils, nor fork, nor knife, nor spoon, for that is not what they are for. If you will dip your blocks in the milk and lick it off, you will be sent away. When you have drunk, let the empty cup then remain upon the table, and do not bite it upon its edge, and by your teeth hold it to your face in order to make noises in it sounding like a duck, for you will be sent away. When you chew your food, keep your mouth closed until you have swallowed. And do not open it to show your brother or your sister what is within. I say to you, do not so, even if your brother or your sister has done the same to you. Eat your food only. Do not eat that which is not food. Neither seize the table between your jaws, nor use the raiment of the table to wipe your lips. I say again to you, do not touch it, but leave it as it is. And though your stick of carrot does indeed resemble a marker, draw not with it upon the table, even in pretend, for we do not do that, that is why. And though the pieces of broccoli are very like small trees, do not stand them upright to make a forest, because we do not do that, that is why. Sit just as I have told you, and do not lean to one side or the other, nor slide down until you are nearly slid away. Heed me, for if you sit like that, your hair will go into the syrup. And now behold, even as I have said, it has come to pass. Laws pertaining to dessert. For we judge between the plate that is unclean and the plate that is clean, saying first, if the plate is clean, then shall you have dessert. But of the unclean plate the laws are these. If you have eaten most of your meat and 2 bites of your peas, with each bite consisting of not fewer than 3 peas each, or in total 6 peas, eaten where I can see, and you have also eaten enough of your potatoes to fill 2 forks, both forkfuls eaten where I can see, then you shall have dessert. But if you eat a lesser number of peas, and yet you eat the potatoes, still you shall not have dessert. And if you eat the peas, yet leave the potatoes uneaten, you shall not have dessert, no, not even a small portion thereof. And if you try to deceive by moving the peas and the potatoes around with a fork, that it may appear you have eaten what you have not, you will fall into iniquity. And I will know, and you shall have no dessert. On screaming, do not scream, for it is as if you scream all the time. If you are given a plate on which 2 foods you do not wish to touch each other are touching each other, your voice rises up even to the ceiling, while you point to the offense with the finger of your right hand. But I say to you, scream not. Only remonstrate gently with the server, that the server may correct the fault. Likewise, if you receive a portion of fish, from which every piece of herbal seasoning has not been scraped off, and the herbal seasoning is loathsome to you, and steeped in vileness, again I say, refrain from screaming, though the vileness overwhelm you, and cause you a faint unto death. Make not the sound from within your throat, neither cover your face, nor press your fingers to your nose. For even now I have made the fish as it should be. Behold, I eat of it myself, yet do not die. Concerning face and hands, cast your countenance upward to the light, and lift your eyes to the hills, that I may more easily wash you off. For the stains are upon you, even to the very back of your head there is rice there. And in the breast pocket of your garment and upon the toe of your shoe, rice and other fragments are distributed in a manner wonderful to see. Only hold yourself still. Hold still, I say. Give each finger in its turn for my examination thereof, and also each thumb. Lo, how iniquitous they appear. What I do is as it must be, and you shall not go hence till I have done. Various other laws, statutes, and ordinances. Bite not, lest you be cast into quiet time. Neither drink of your own bathwater, nor bathwater of any kind, nor rub your foot on bread, even if it be in the package, nor rub yourself against cars, nor against any building, nor eat sand. Leave the cat alone. For what has the cat done? That you should so afflict it with tape. And hum not that humming in your nose as I read, nor stand between the light and the book. Indeed, you will drive me to madness. Nor forget what I said about the tape. Complaints and lamentations. Oh, my children, you are disobedient. For when I tell you what you must do, you argue and dispute hotly, even to the littlest detail. And when I do not exceed, you cry out and hit and kick. Yes, and even sometimes do you spit and shout, "Stupid head," and other blasphemies, and hit and kick the wall and the molding thereof when you are sent to the corner. And though the law teaches that no one shall be sent to the corner for more minutes than he has years of age, yet I would leave you there all day, so mighty am I in anger. But upon being sent to the corner, you ask straight away, "Can I come out?" And I reply, "No, you may not come out." And again you ask. And again I reply, and again I give the same reply. But when you ask again a third time, then you can come out. Hear me, O my children, for the bills they kill me. I pay and pay again, even to the 12th time in a year, and yet again they mount higher than before. For our help, that we may be covered, I give 1,600 talents 12 times in a year, but even this covers not the 1,500 deductible for each member of the family within a calendar year. And yet for ordinary visits, we still are not covered, nor for many medications, nor for the teeth within our mouths. Guess not at what rage is in my mind, for surely you cannot know. For I will come to you at the 1st of the month, and at the 15th of the month, with the bills and a great whining and moan. And when the month of taxes comes, I will decry the wrong and unfairness of it, and mourn with wine and ashtrays, and rend my receipts. And you shall remember that I am that I am, before, after, and until you are 21. Hear me then, and avoid me in my wrath, O children of me.
So now our beautiful ceremony. So can I have your company here to take the pickle jar? So we have a very beautiful trophy, which they don't get to have, that has, it is a pickle jar with a pickle, and it is the Fools for a Day ceremonial item. And we're very grateful to Cora for doing this medal of tin. Okay, so now we have the winners, the Fools for the Day. We have it inscribed right here. Good Lord, look at this. Read this. Look at this. If you can, do you need glasses? It's Ian and Cora Frazier. It says that there. So we are now going to have some beautiful pictures taken of the three of us taking. The three of us are now taking joy in this moment of Christmas.
I'd like to thank the members of the Academy.
Are you sure we can't keep this?
We might be able to create a replica if that's something that you would really love. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is Kurt Guya, by the way, our managing director, and he pulls all this together. We have the recognition that they have been extremely fortunate, as we often are, with the guests that we receive. The company of, the wisdom, the time with, we just say, standing ovation, ladies and gentlemen. So, would you join me in this?